I'd been thinking about all sorts of things, thinking about what is my next film gonna be after having made The Lost Daughter. Really looking for like a container, I think, to hold a lot of the things I was thinking about. My goal when I set out to make this movie was to see if I could make a movie that was big and pop and hot and like a roller coaster, but simultaneously totally honest about my emotional experience in the world.
Mainly I was thinking of it because it's unavoidable, right? There was no way to be able to play Frankenstein's monster without a reference to Karloff. There's this wonderful introduction where he comes in backwards. I don't know why. There's so many things where I'm like, why did he do that? But the first time you actually see Frankenstein there, he's walking in butt first into I don't know why they made that choice. But even people who've read the book and understand that Mary Shelley did not describe Frankenstein's monster anything like Karloff's interpretation, you still, I think, keep seeing Karloff, right? He's just a part of us as human beings.
When I saw Metropolis, thinking about this movie, I thought there are quite a few movies made by men about bringing grown women either back from the dead or science projects or like mermaids or things like that. It's different when a woman makes a movie about a woman coming to life. I love Metropolis. I love the wild dance sequences, the trippiness in there, the costumes, the topless costumes. There's some real fantasy thing about creating a woman, an ideal woman for you. That is turned on its head here. But Metropolis is like one of the, that's like the groundwork for for the idea cinematically.
Sort of them against the world, a couple that feel like they're actually dependent upon each other, but there's also a great deal of rivalry and fighting in between them. You've also got just amazing actors. The feeling all the time of tragedy being right around the corner, of what could go wrong with this. How long can you live life at that speed? And the bride is doing that. She is essentially experiencing all of life in a ridiculously short amount of time. And how do you tolerate that? And I felt like that Sid and Nancy spoke to that. Yeah. But I do want to say, this is Nancy, all right? Sid is not the lead here.
I wanted something that I could bounce my monsters off of, and Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers were the perfect pair. When I was writing the movie, I had originally set it actually just post-Civil War. So many people had been killed, so many men in the Civil War, and women had to figure out a way to support themselves. And this new job came about called a spiritualist. Spiritualists were as ubiquitous as like a therapist. They were everywhere. And there were women who would speak to your dead for you. So I thought, what a cool time to set this movie about people being brought back from the dead. But then I realized I wanted Frank, who is so lonely, to have his primary relationship be with a movie star who of course doesn't know he exists. But Frank can go to the movies and take off his face covering and not scare people and sit alone and imagine that he has this relationship with this movie star. And so then, of course, I needed to set it later when there were actual movies. And the 30s came very kind of naturally, I think, because the movies from the 30s are so based in fantasy. A major theme in this movie, I think, is fantasy versus reality, and which is hotter, and which is more exciting, and which is scarier. Obviously, reality. In every way. But those 30s movies are like, the hair is perfect. The love story looks a certain way. It's delightful, and they do make you feel cozy, and they do make you feel kind of like bright. But they also sometimes make me feel like, am I doing something wrong? Because my life doesn't look anything like this. And especially when I was younger, a lot of movies made me feel that way. Wait, this isn't an expression of my experience. It's close, but wait, where do I fit in? Is there something wrong with me? Am I monstrous? I think all of those things are things I'm playing with in this movie. Is there space for the monstrous aspects of all of us in a major love story?
Actually, that was Maggie's recommendation because we were trying to find the voices of all of these women separately and to see what kind of would riff off each other and play jazz with each other and have different textures, and rhythms. And Mary Shelley has a very different texture to her voice than the bride does. And somehow they have to be in communion with each other. What's so interesting about Barbara Stanwyck, and even her story as an actress, she came from very, very poor working class family. And there is a sense of absolute intelligence, wit. She could kind of swing her way out of anything that didn't really serve her. But also so much yearning inside of her. To see that in that woman was such a huge inspiration, especially for Ida and the bride as a kind of texture of that woman.
Persona, yeah. I mean, just in the simplest way, there's a piece, again, without getting into spoilers, in the reinvigoration, which is just completely inspired by maybe like the first 10 seconds of Persona. Thinking about her reinvigoration, I was thinking about, can it be a mix of something magic? It has to be, since we actually don't have any science for bringing people back to life. But like quantum, beyond quantum, I'm not a scientist, so I'm using that very loosely, but my kind of understanding of that, irrational science, the hugeness of film, the vastness of film to create something that actually feels magic, combined with something totally Newtonian, rational science. And so there's that arcing light in the beginning of Persona that I find actually weirdly kind of erotic, two elements of light that are kind of getting hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter, smoking until they arc. And that somehow that arcing, which does feel like it has something to do with sex, which has something to do with creating life. I just felt it like fit into a little piece of our reinvigoration. Then, of course, yes, there's the thing in Persona of two women's minds kind of melding. Like, are they two women? Are they one? Almost an idea of a ghost, definitely living in the world and the language of the unconscious, which our movie does too. But Persona's like a sprinkle. Persona in a big, hot roller coaster only gets to be like a small spice,
Wild at Heart, which is just fantastic. This feeling of sort of fugitives on the run, but an incredible enjoyment of that, a love and a sort of a sensuality to it, an explosiveness between them, a volatility, something that is enviable in the intensity of their love, but also, again, something that probably can't last.
Bonnie and Clyde, the amount of bullets that go into Bonnie at the end of that movie, and you think like, stop now, it's too much. The need by all these strangers who we've never met to just shoot the bride so many times. She was just talking, and it's so scary. I mean, she does do more than just talk. In fact, that's illegal in the movie, to be fair, but like quite a lot more. but I think the thing that scares them and makes them need to like riddle her with bullets is what it is she's trying to say.
Film that's not on your list to begin, for reasons that I want to get into, is obviously The Bride of Frankenstein. So much of this film started from seeing someone who had a tattoo of the bride.
A huge tattoo.
Tell me about that tattoo and how it made you feel when you saw it, and some of the details in it that really got the wheels turning in terms of being like, there's a big story in here and there's a big personality and woman and character here.
I mean, I guess just her hair made a really big impact on everyone. I went back and looked her up, the kind of amazing Elsa Lanchester, her face, and I realized I hadn't seen the movie. I watched the movie. I was completely unprepared for the fact that she's not really in it. I mean, she's in it for 2 minutes. The bride herself doesn't speak and is only in it for 2 minutes. I was like, that's interesting. The movie really is just a Frankenstein sequel. It's about all sorts of things, and it's really about getting to know him. But this idea of this both monstrous and really violently brutal, but also just lonely, very human man needing someone to be able to be with him, I think is very interesting, and I relate to it completely. I really understand. But the thing that movie doesn't ask is, what about her? And this movie does.